We are in the car, returning from a family trip. My wife, Robin, is driving. Our daughter is reading one of those magazines for teenagers that inevitably includes some kind of a quiz. Hey, Dad, you want to take a relationship quiz? Sure. So she asked me this question. Do you believe in love at first sight? I first saw Robin in Miss Fonfa's 11th grade U.S. history, first day of class. I looked across the room, saw this girl, felt this tingling sensation wash over me. Suddenly she was all I could see. Her shoulder-length blonde hair, her face, her smile, the white blouse, the blue shorts, all duly noted and remembered. For a fraction of an instant, I felt as if I knew everything about her, and then it was gone, leaving only the conviction that she was everything I could ever ask for. I was painfully shy of girls, but that had to end now because I really wanted to get to know this girl, and I did. Robin was smart, funny. I enjoyed talking to her, being with her. We became friends. I wanted more than that, but even thinking about sharing my feelings would trigger a panic attack. After high school, I joined the Air Force. Robin attended a local university. This was before the internet, before cell phones, before even those janky online services that tied up your phone line, and when long-distance phone calls were a luxury. So we wrote letters, which we still have. Dear Richard, are you enjoying yourself in basic training? I hope. Love, Robin. Dear Robin, am I enjoying myself? Signing up for basic training is one of the stupidest things I've ever done. Love, Richard. For almost a year after basic training, I'd go back and visit Robin every month or two, a 600-mile round trip by car, until I got the 7-page letter. I was 19. Two of the hardest truths from that letter. First, that she'd had romantic feelings for me, but she was never sure how I felt about her. And second, that the obvious fact, which I had previously ignored, that we would soon be living thousands of miles apart for years to come. I was home on leave at the time. We met for lunch. I told Robin I had romantic feelings for her. We talked about missed opportunities and agreed to remain friends. Later, I got a book full of blank pages. I took the 7 pages of her letter and taped them onto the pages of the book. I read it one last time and put it away in a box of old letters. I moved on. Robin and I continued to write letters. Years later, Robin wrote to tell me that her current relationship was getting serious. I felt wistful. I mean, I'd moved on, I'd had relationships, but clearly some part of me had continued to hope. I wrote Robin back and wished her the best, and I wondered if I would ever get over Robin. Months later, I got out of the Air Force, came back home. It was 5 years since the 7-page letter. I was in my mid-20s and not in a relationship. And then Robin's relationship fell apart. I was heartbroken for my friend. I could see she had a long, difficult road ahead of her. I wanted to support Robin. So we started spending time together going to see plays and movies. We'd have these long telephone conversations about anything and everything, including politics and religion. And sometimes we even still wrote letters. The time we spent together, the things we talked about, the letters, our relationship began to feel kind of like dating, minus any hint of romance whatsoever. No holding hands, not so much as a buddy hug. We were just friends. But it was complicated. After the initial shock of Robin's breakup, I was still heartbroken for her, but I also felt this happiness welling up inside of me because I might get a second chance with her. But Robin needed a friend right now, not a romance, and it was going to be a long time before she was interested in that. So I chose to be a friend. I told myself, you're a big boy now, you can manage your feelings. Until a year later, when I realized I was wrong. I was on a first date at a party when Robin showed up. I was overwhelmed by this jumble of conflicting emotions and thoughts. The one thought that rose to the surface, I don't want Robin to think I'm dating. So I tried to pay attention to both women separately, as far apart as possible in that small apartment, like that was going to work. My friend Robin was happy for me that I had a date. My date was not happy that I had a Robin. My date got a ride home with someone else. I never saw her again. I was embarrassed and upset with myself. I left soon after. Weeks later, I was still thinking about that party when I received a Valentine's Day card from Robin, 35 years ago today. She wrote about how my friendship had embraced her life. She thanked me for being a steadfast friend and for the support I'd been to her over the past year. It was touching and painful to read. I could not reconcile being just a friend with how close I felt we'd become. The best I could tell, Robin still wasn't ready to date anyone, and I was still just a friend. But I cared for her too much to be just a friend anymore. I had to say something. So I decided to say everything. A few days later, I went to Robin and I said to her, Robin, I want us to start dating. I am in love with you, and eventually I want us to get married, like you do when you're asking someone out on a first date. I was right. She wasn't ready, and I was still just a friend. It didn't help to be right, though. I felt like I had a lead weight in the pit of my stomach. Breathing felt like it took a conscious effort. I needed some time. After a couple months, I felt like I was ready to talk again. I needed to say goodbye to Robin. I'd never be able to move on as long as we were still friends. But what began as us trying to say goodbye to each other turned into a series of conversations about our relationship. One day, a kind of skeptical Robin asked me, when did you first know you were in love with me? I was not prepared for a pop quiz. We'd known each other for a long time. Our relationship had gone through lots of phases, but I thought about it. And I told her about getting to know her, the things I learned about her that made me fall in love with who she is. I had no idea where this was all going to end up, but the lead weight was gone. I didn't have to think about breathing anymore because we were talking about our relationship. In the end, it was Robin who suggested that we try dating with a small d. No commitments, no expectations, no pressure. But our relationship over the past 18 months really had been kind of like dating. So when we actually started dating, we already knew a lot about each other. So just a few months after our first date, we were standing on an empty beach one evening, the sounds of the Pacific Ocean in the background, and I knelt down in the sand and proposed to Robin, who wasn't surprised this time, was very happy, and she said yes. 8 months later, 10 years after I first saw Robin, she stood there in her wedding gown, looking into my eyes and said, I do. And I knew then that I would never get over Robin. We are still in the car. Our daughter is ready to administer the quiz. Robin is listening, but we've known each other for 3 decades. So our daughter asked me this question: do you believe in love at first sight? Yes, I do. Oh, says Robin. What do you mean, oh? I fell in love with you at first sight. You never told me that. So I tell her this story. Thank you.